Sie haben in den letzten Interviews mit uns hauptsächlich Deutschland für die Ukraine-Krise verantwortlich gemacht. Welche Rolle spielte dabei aber Ihre Regierung in Washington? In your last interviews on our channel, you mainly blamed Germany for the Ukraine crisis. But which role does your own government in Washington, D.C. play in all of this?
I think Germany's culpability in the current crisis is well established, and there can be no minimizing this and trying to put the blame on somebody else. Germany's sins are many, and they will be called to task by history and by the fact that what they are hoping to accomplish won't happen, and they'll have to pay the price. But let's not pretend that Germany is the leading power here. The power that is ultimately responsible for this, that could have stopped Germany at any time simply by saying, sit, stay, is the United States, the master. The United States has been planning this strategy for some time. I think we can see that Germany wasn't necessarily in on the initial stages of the planning because Angela Merkel continued to pursue a policy that expanded, not diminished, Germany's position of Russian gas. The United States has had a regime change policy against Russia for some time now, dating back to at least 2009 when Mike McFaul advised Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama to embark on what they called the Russian reset. It wasn't a reset. It was designed to get rid of Vladimir Putin. And the policy has been that way ever since. And what we see in Ukraine is part and parcel of the same policy. A Harvard professor at Davos openly acknowledged this, that the sanctions that were imposed on Russia for invading Ukraine were designed to achieve regime change. This is an American policy. It was born in America. It's been raised by America, and it is being unleashed by America.
Die USA wollen nun Raketen mit größerer Reichweite an die Ukraine liefern. Können Sie uns etwas dazu sagen, was das für Raketen sind und was das für das Kampfgeschehen bedeutet? The US recently declared their intention to supply missiles with a greater range to Ukraine. Can you tell us more about those missiles and their possible effects on the battlefield?
I think we need to get that down to first principles. There's no such thing as a miracle weapon. The wonder weapon doesn't exist. So anytime the U.S. talks about providing Ukraine with this weapon or that weapon, there's a lot of uneducated minds that say, oh, this is going to change everything on the battlefield. No, nothing's going to change. Russia is going to win. Ukraine is going to lose. All this weapon will do is guarantee that the price Ukraine pays for its defeat will be greater. What part of Russia will never allow a Ukrainian artillery shell to impact Russian soil again? Do planners in the United States not understand? You know, if the range of a artillery system was 80 kilometers, and we provide Ukraine with a 150-kilometer range missile, we just guaranteed that Russia is going to push out at least 150 kilometers past the borders of the Donbass, Zaporizhia, and Kherson, because Russia will not allow a final situation to exist where Ukrainian missiles can hit Russian soil. So the United States, congratulations, has just guaranteed that Ukraine is going to lose double the amount of territory that we're going to lose anyways. And maybe, who knows, Russia might encourage the United States to give Ukraine 300-kilometer range missiles, and we'll just terminate the whole country altogether, because that's the direction we're heading. This changes nothing except the price paid by Ukraine for the folly of thinking they can beat Russia on the battlefield.
Bundeskanzler Olaf Scholz konnte auf seiner Südamerika-Reise kein Land von seiner Ukraine-Politik überzeugen. Was denken Sie, woran liegt das? During his recent trip to Latin America, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz failed to convince even a single country of his Ukraine policy. In your opinion, what are the reasons for this?
I think, first of all, we have to understand that the United States and Europe operate under some sort of arrogant notion that they are the world. So they like to make statements like the world is aligned against Russia. Actually, the world isn't. The world is either neutral or firmly on the side of Russia. It's the United States and the collective West that are against Russia. And this became evident as Olaf Scholz attempted to bring people over to the dark side, shall we say, to embrace his vision. And he was told in no uncertain terms that no, they don't share this. The world is actually looking for peace, not for war. I think Brazilian President Lula said that quite clear. So, I think Germany, harbors the misconception that it is somehow the epitome of Western virtue, and that this virtue will be willingly embraced by the heathens out there. Remember, what Scholz is doing is literally just an extension of the arrogance of Burrell. You remember Burrell, Europe is a garden, the world is a jungle. So Scholz has gone off to the jungle in an effort to convince them to be like the garden. And the jungle is saying, no, we're actually the garden, you're the jungle, and we don't want to have anything to do with you.
Die europäischen Regierungen werden nicht müde zu betonen, dass man keine Kriegspartei ist und auch nicht werden möchte. Ist das eine Selbsttäuschung der Regierungen? Various European governments keep repeating that they aren't a party in this conflict and have no intention to become one. Are those governments deceiving themselves?
The interesting thing is when the special military operation started, when Russia invaded Ukraine back in February, there seemed to be unanimity among Europe that they just weren't going to get involved. Olaf Scholz had trouble sending helmets and rifles because they didn't want to escalate this. They didn't want to become a party to the conflict. And yet, using their own definition of what constitutes a party to the conflict, they are now parties to the conflict. They're providing heavy equipment, artillery, training. They are literally an extension of Ukraine throughout Europe. Wherever Ukrainian troops train is an extension of Ukraine. Whoever provides weapons to Ukraine is an extension of Ukraine. And frankly speaking, Russia would have every legal right to strike them because they are parties to the conflict. So it is a gross act of self-deception. And it's not fooling anybody. It's not fooling their own citizens. It's not fooling Russian leaders, the Russian people. And at some point in time, again, the piper must be paid. And these nations are going to be called upon to answer for what they've done. Russia is a nation that has compassion, has humanity, is capable of forgiveness, but it doesn't forget. And it will, at the end of the day, remind those nations who proclaimed their non-participation that they actually did participate, and they will be held to account.